Oh, hi, this is David Hawthorne at astroview.com. Here's a chart that we would consider as a Muhurta, which is electing a specific time to begin something, such as starting a business or taking a wedding vow, or closing on a piece of property, or putting on a gemstone or kavach, or even launching a space shuttle. You want to have a chart that is as pure as possible and as free from afflictions as possible. So in this example, we use the Sagittarius rising sign in the first house with the ascendant degree of 23 degrees. Now, number one, we like to choose the rising signs that have the fewest functional malefics. So the most ideal rising sign typically is Gemini, unless there's some transit for Gemini, if there was a transit in the sign of Taurus, if some planet was in Taurus or Scorpio or Capricorn, like say some slow moving, like right now Saturn for everybody is in Scorpio, so we can't use a Gemini chart because that would end up in the sixth house. So Saturn would be sitting there for 2 years. That's why we're not using them currently, Gemini rising. But the other favorable rising signs would be Leo, Libra, Sagittarius, and Aries, because these rising signs only have Rahu, Ketu, and one planet as malefics. We would never use a Taurus, a Virgo, or Pisces rising sign because those have 5 functional malefic planets, using systems approach for interpreting horoscopes. So in this example, we put the Sagittarius in the first house because during that time there were no planets in the 6th house, the 8th house, or the 12th house. Those are Dustan Bhavas. So it's better if you can, it's not always possible, but it's better if you can have a chart with no planets in the 6th, 8th, or 12th. We would also never do a chart that has Rahu and Ketu within 5 degrees of the ascendant. And we would never have any functional malefic planet in the chart within 5 degrees of the ascendant. So for Sagittarius, there's no Multracone sign in the 6th or the 8th or the 12th, so only the 8th ruler Moon becomes a functional malefic planet. In this case, Moon is extremely well placed and is not close to the ascendant degree. So the rule is you pick rising signs that have the fewest malefic planets, and those would be Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, and Sagittarius. Geminis only have 2 functional malefic planets. Aries, Leo, Libra, and Sagittarius have 3 malefics. Everybody else has more, either 4 malefics or 5 malefics. So Scorpio would have 4 malefics, Capricorn 4 malefics, Cancer rising sign 4 malefics. But for Taurus, Virgo, and Pisces, 5 malefics. So first choose the rising sign with the fewest malefics. Second, make sure no planets are in the Dustan Bhavas inauspicious house if possible. Make sure no malefic planet is close to the rising sign degree. In this case, Rahu, Ketu, and Moon. It's also ideal if you can adjust the time that puts a couple of the powerful planets like Sun close to the rising sign degree, because then Sun blesses this house, this 3rd house, and it blesses the 9th house by aspect because it's close to the ascendant. And even Saturn does the same thing. Saturn blesses the house it occupies and then 3, 7, and 10 houses away. So Saturn and Sun get more power because they're close to the rising sign degree. We have no planets in this example of Muhurta that are less than 5 degrees infant state, and we have no planets past 25 degrees old age. Planets in the first 5 degrees are weak, planets in the last 5 degrees are weak. And then we try to select a Mahadasha and an Antardasha that are functional benefics and well placed. In this case, Venus for the Sagittarius is a functional benefic planet, and it's well placed in the house of wealth and status, and it's in good strength at 14 degrees. So all these planets are strong. Venus is strong. Mars is strong at 17 degrees. Sun is strong at 24 degrees, and these two are codependent on their dispositor, Saturn, which all retrograde doesn't mean a thing. Retrograde is fine. The only time retrograde is a problem is that if a retrograde planet is a functional malefic planet and it's afflicting some other planet by conjunction or aspect, or if a retrograde planet is a functional benefic and it is afflicted by a functional malefic, either in the transit chart or in the natal chart. So in this case, we would say that Saturn at 21 degrees is strong, and it is codependent on its landlord, its dispositor, Mercury, which is well placed. It is in its debilitation sign, but here's a case where you cannot always have a perfect Muhurta. Sometimes there's a little flaw here or there. But this Mercury is extremely well placed and at 5 degrees, and it's with the Jupiter. It's in a house under the influence of the benefic Saturn, so it's okay. It's very, very, very difficult to have a 100% pure chart. But Venus is well placed at 14 degrees, Mars is well placed, Sun at 24. Jupiter is in its own sign. This is a Panch Mahapurush yoga, one of the 5 great yogas. Moon is even in good strength there. It's a waxing moon pulling away from the sun. It's in Aries, ruled by the strong Mars, ruled by the strong Saturn. Rahu and Ketu are causing no damage. Rahu aspects 5, 7, and 9 houses away, nothing at 4 degrees. And Ketu aspects 5, 7, and 9 houses, nothing at 4 degrees. So Rahu and Ketu are benign in this chart. You know, a Venus main period and a Venus subperiod. So this is what you're trying to accomplish by looking at the charts and trying to find a good Muhurta for electional astrology, for starting something new. Now here's another Muhurta that we elected. This time we chose the Libra rising sign. This year it was very difficult because, again, with Gemini, see, this is a Gemini, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for Gemini rising signs, Saturn is going to spend a couple of years in the 6th house. So it's hard to use that as a positive chart. With Libra, then we chose Libra because Venus is strong and well placed at 5.5 degrees in Aquarius, with the strong Mars at 17 degrees, ruled by Saturn in the 2nd house of wealth and status. For a Libra rising sign, the only functional malefic planet other than Rahu and Ketu would be Mercury, because Mercury's Multricone sign is Virgo, and it falls in the 12th house, the Dustan Bhava. So for Libra, Mercury does become the most malefic planet. So we want to keep the most malefic planets away from the ascendant degree. In this case, Rahu and Ketu are at 18 degrees. They're not close to the ascendant degree. And Mercury at 20 degrees is not close to the ascendant degree. So Rahu, Ketu, and Mercury are causing no serious issues. Now again, we can't always have a perfect chart, so there might be some little flaw here and there. But if we take a look at the ruler of the chart, strong Venus, 5.5 degrees, strong Mars, 17.5 degrees. Very strong Sun, 12, almost 13 degrees in Capricorn. Opposite Jupiter, which is exalted at 24 degrees. So this Jupiter, because it's close to the ascendant, is blessing this 10th house. It's blessing the 2nd house of wealth and status, and it improves this house because it's blessing the 4th house, and it even improves the 6th house. Around this time, sometimes when you have to have a Muhurta, you know, because somebody's has to get married that particular month or something, you have to do the best you can, even if there's some flaws. Like in this case, Rahu and Ketu are in the 12th and the 6th house, which is not ideal. No question, not ideal. And this Rahu at 18 degrees does throw an aspect on Mercury at 20 degrees. So that's not ideal. But you notice that there's no Mercury periods for 14 years. So this can act as a pretty good chart. So Mercury's not operating. And Mercury's well placed, and it gets the support of Jupiter's influence in this house. And the royal Sun is sitting here as well. So Saturn is nice and strong at 9 degrees. Sun is strong at 13. Mercury is actually strong at 20 in Capricorn. So if a planet is strong and well placed, then the affliction isn't so severe if it's a couple of degrees separation. Venus and Mars are sitting here. This is very good. And Moon. The Moon's at 14 degrees, very strong here. It's a waxing moon pulling away from the Sun. And we have a Venus main period and a Venus subperiod, followed by Sun, Moon, Mars. And those are all benefic planets for Libra. You can also check the Navamsa chart and make sure that the planets have not gone into the debilitation signs. So here in this case, Sun is exalted in Aries here. No planets are debilitated. Now here's another example. In this case, we're using the Gemini rising sign. In 2012, we needed a Muhurta around this time, and it did put Rahu and Ketu in the Dustan Bhavas, but we did keep them away from the ascendant degree. They're not within 5 degrees, they're just outside 5 degrees. But look at Mars here at 23 degrees is close to the ascendant degree. Venus at 22 degrees is close to the ascendant degree. Mercury at 22 degrees is close to the ascendant degree. Moon at 20 degrees is close to the ascendant degree. So there was a lot of planets that are really strong in this chart, really well placed. Jupiter is in good strength, ruled by a very powerful Mars, ruled by a very powerful Sun, ruled by a very powerful, even exalted Saturn, ruled by an exalted, well-placed Venus. So those positions are so strong, it carries the chart. Now, the chart was for February 22nd. So technically it was still in the tail end of a Rahu main period, but Mars was the operating planet and it's strong and well placed, ruled by the royal Sun, ruled by the exalted Saturn, ruled by the exalted Venus. And within 2 months, it was all going to change to Jupiter anyways for 16 years, and Jupiter's extremely well placed. So here's a chart that's not perfect. Rahu and Ketu cause some issues, but look at how strong these other planets are. They're so good. So this can be safely used, this kind of a Muhurta. Now here's another chart for another Muhurta we used. This time it was in 2014. And this time we used Gemini because there was nothing in the 6th, 8th, or 12th. So that's great. We chose the 18 degrees because Jupiter was at 18 degrees. So this is very powerful Jupiter in the first house, blessing the first, fifth, seventh, and ninth houses. We kept Rahu and Ketu away from the ascendant degree, and we kept them away from other planets in close conjunction or aspects. So Ketu aspects 5, 7, and 9 houses away, nothing around 4 degrees. Rahu 5, 7, and 9 houses. So this is okay. This is almost 9 degrees. This is about 4 degrees. So this Rahu is not bothering this Venus. Venus is in Aquarius, ruled by an exalted Saturn. Yes, it's an old age, so it's a bit weak. But again, you cannot not always have a perfect chart. Sometimes you just have to. Somebody has a wedding, or you have to file a piece of paper with the bank or something. You have to close on a house or whatever. You just do the best you can in that particular time frame. But here's Moon in its own sign. This is wonderful. Mars, ruling income, is in the house of property. It's less than 25 degrees, so it's strong. Venus is about 9 degrees, very strong, ruled by very exalted Saturn. Sun, very beautiful Sun here. Now here in Mercury again is debilitated, but that's okay because it's with the royal Sun. It's well placed. It's a favorable planet. Mars and Sun actually have good influence on each other here. So here we had a Saturn main period. Not completely ideal because it's a weak Saturn at 28 degrees, but exalted. And then it was a Venus subperiod, which was good. And we knew that Sun, the Moon, Mars were coming up, and those were all favorable for this chart. And even the Mercury is favorable. So here's one final example. We took this as the Gemini rising sign, at about 23 degrees. This kept Rahu and Ketu off the most effective point. No planets in the 6th, 8th, or 12th. Strong Mercury in the first house, strong Sun in the first house. Nice strong Venus at 20 degrees, ruled by the well-placed Moon at 11 degrees, ruled by the well-placed Jupiter in its own sign of Pisces. So this is a Panch Mahapurush Yoga. Saturn a little bit less than 5 degrees, but that's the only flaw in this chart. Otherwise, it's a pretty darn good chart. So Venus well placed, Mars well placed, Saturn well placed, Moon well placed, Jupiter well placed, Sun and Mercury well placed. For those that are paying sharp attention, yes, Rahu aspects 5, 7, and 9 houses away, so it does aspect this Mars. But we're suggesting that Mars is strong enough, it's more than a degree away from Rahu, and it's ruled by the very well placed, very strong Sun. So basically, again, we're in a situation where somebody needs a Muhurta, and you've got to provide them with something. So we sometimes you have to choose the best you can, even though it may not be 100% ideal.